Hey, what's going on, guys? Coming at you with another video, this time over the Cobras batter breakdown. This is again a series of videos. I'm going to be going down every single team, breaking down their tendencies and things like that. So make sure you smash the like button, make sure you subscribe, and thank you so much for the support on the channel lately. Really appreciate it. And yeah, let's go ahead and get into the Cobras batters. So the Cobras pitch percentage is really interesting because drop balls are higher than you usually expect, and that's mostly because of Drew Davis. Drew specifically looks for drop balls, as he said before. He likes the weird pitches for some reason. But again, sliders are very popular, and that's because Sean Flynn and Andy hit most of their hits off of sliders. You'll see soon. At the bottom, you have drop variants and riser variants, which makes sense. They're tough pitches to hit. If you look at their strikeout pitch percentage, you see that they strike out consistently more on drop variants than the rest of the league. They're a little under on fastballs and risers, which makes sense. But you also see that their drop ball and riser variant percentages are also down. So it seems that they're very much are looking for sliders and drop balls as a team. If you look at their location, they're pretty much on average with everything. They're only a few percentage off on the top, a few percentage off on the middle. They're dead on the bottom average, only a percentage away from the left, exactly in the middle for middle vertical, and they're exact 1% away from the right average. The Cobras are pretty consistent on their strikeout locations with the league, so I wouldn't say there's one particular spot that you could look to say that's the place. And it's the same thing if you go into the individual batters. Andy Duran, though, really likes sliders, and you'll see both from his strikeout pitch and his hit pitch percentage. He hits sliders 50% of his hits this year were sliders, 25% were drop balls, 17% were fastball risers, and 8% were drop variants. If you look at his strikeouts, you'll see that it's not much different. His sliders were up there. He really likes to swing at them. His fastball and drop variants were also up there, which makes sense. That's the pitches he probably most likely wants to hit. He's not really looking at a drop ball or a riser variant, so that's why they're down there. And he's not getting fooled by them usually. If you take a look at his strikeout chart, Andy is most likely to get struck out in the top right and the top in general. The middle and bottom for the zone for him are pretty even, but it seems like this top right, the top and the right side of the plate is his weakest point, which kind of makes sense since he is he's batting righty, so the right side of the zone is going to be a little weak. Interested that his the inside of the plate is not super difficult for him. He kind of is more likely to get struck out on an outside pitch than. Another interesting point, if we look new to Sean Flynn, Sean also really likes sliders. 44% of his hits came from sliders, but he also likes the riser variants and drop balls, which is interesting. Most people are not looking for those, so it's interesting that the Cobras are not as likely to hit a fastball or a riser rather than the other pitches. If you looked at his strikeout percentage, he's pretty even across the board. He's not striking out on one pitch too much. It seems that he's a pretty balanced batter, which we know Sean Flynn for. It seems that most likely that you're just going to have to get him on a good pitch in a good location. And in his locations, you're going to see the same thing. He hovers around in the same area. It looks like the middle of the zone, middle to the left of the zone is probably his most likely strikeout. But again, like, it's kind of pretty tit for tat. You're going to have to strike him out with a good pitch. I don't think for Sean Flynn it's going to matter about location. You're just going to have to get him with a good pitch. And then lastly, if we look at Drew Davis, he is kind of also even across the board as well. But he definitely favors more fastball and drop balls. He's talked about before on his podcast that he definitely looks for those kinds of pitches, especially drop balls. He's definitely in the high percentile of the league for hitting drop balls. But he also is really good at hitting fastball and risers. You probably want to throw pitches with motion on him in order to get Drew out. Otherwise, he's just going to hit it. If you look at his strikeout percentage, he's pretty even across the board with, again, swinging at drop balls. He's kind of a little bit weak to sliders, if you can tell. He doesn't hit the slider as much as he strikes out on it. But he also doesn't get fooled by riser variants very often, or risers in general. Kind of low on the end in comparison to the rest of the league. But that could be because he is swinging more at the drop balls. He also had a lot more strikeouts than he usually does, so he could have kind of a bias towards that based on the year he was having. But again, I mean, it looks like that you definitely want to throw a drop ball against him that is in a good location. And probably the location that is best is the left side of the plate or in the top part of the zone. He's 54% of the time he's swinging up in the zone, or he's 49% of the time he's swinging on the left side of the zone, getting struck out. So probably needs to work a little bit on that. It seems that he's able to hit the bottom right or the right side of the plate pretty well in the middle. So the top and the left are probably his quote unquote weaker. It's probably not weaker. It's just probably. All right, last thing, guys. Before we end the video off, we're going to talk about the players' hit charts. So you're going to have to see a little bit of the tendency of where hits are going to go. So the interesting about Andy Durand is that a lot of his singles last year came from on the right side. So he would knock one onto the right side of the field, and then he would get on base. But interesting enough, he was always going to the same side of his field, to the left field, for his home runs, except for the one on the right side of the field. For the most part, he is hitting it towards... For the most part, he's hitting for power, and so that is why it's going to go opposite. And if he doesn't get clean contact, he's probably going to be on the right side. So you're going to have to make sure that you are ready for that just in case. So not a ton of shifting for Andy Durand. All right. Next up is Drew Davis, which was another interesting statistic to see, that his were mostly on the right side of the field. All of his home runs were on the right side. Even though he's a righty, he's going opposite, which... something that's pretty big outlier that we talked about, me and Drew kind of talked about in the DMs, is that, it's interesting that for the most part he was hitting towards the right side of the plate the whole season. But do I think that he's going to continue to do this? I don't know. This could be just kind of a whole outlier season that, it's not normal that you're usually hitting it opposite for the most part. So I wouldn't recommend a shift against Drew, but it's totally possible if it were to happen. And then lastly, for Sean Flynn, you can see for the most part when he was able to get contact, he was able to get on base. Only 3 times that he hit it into the field and he got out. That's mostly due to his amazing speed, that he's just able to get on base when he's able to make contact. For the most part, it's pretty clear to see that he's hitting it towards the left side of the field. But again, he can sometimes get it towards that right side of the field if you're not ready and get on base. So just be prepared for Sean Flynn. Again, I wouldn't shift. Just make sure that you are playing maybe a little more up, especially since a lot of his hits didn't make it past the baseline. So who knows? But just be prepared for that against Sean Flynn. Anyway, guys, that is it for the Cobras. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you click the like and subscribe. Next video is going to be on the D-backs, so make sure you also stay tuned for that. Make sure you turn on for post notifications, so that way you can get the top stats and analysis for the MLW. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.